Hey everybody, and welcome to Geekoholics Anonymous, episode 156. I'm your host, Rico, here with my co-host,
Dane Cody.
Dane, Cody, and I get together once a week, talk about video games, TV, movies, and or whatever the hell we like. And oh boy, Dane.
Do
I have some leaky plumbing?
What?
Yeah.
Dude, your house isn't even that old.
No, the gaming plumbing leaks all over the place, man.
I thought for a minute you were talking about other plumbing, and I was like, dude, we're close, but that is way too much information. I do not need to know about that.
No, we've got crazy leaks going on with the run-up to E3. It's bananas every day. There's something new that seems to be, like, sneaking out.
Fair enough.
On the heels of that giant Walmart leak that was chalked up to placeholder, and then, oh, wait a second, some of it is actually real.
Surprise!
What's going on, my friend?
Not a whole lot, actually. Kind of a quiet, kind of a chill weekend on my side. Not a whole lot going on. Played some video games.
Literally
made some technology changes, which we'll get to a little bit later. But yeah,
literally between shows, I have trouble remembering what happens sometimes.
I'm assuming we're talking about E3 again?
No, just like in like our weekend, I'm like, do I have any cool stories to share? And it's like, no. And I'm like, oh no, wait a second. I had a daddy daycare day and went to the petting zoo, and you know, that was fun. And but I forget they do so much stuff. And then it's like, I come to the next show and it's like, no, I didn't do anything. And it's like, wait a second. No, I did tons.
Sometimes I forget what I did yesterday. Never mind what I did 4 days ago.
It just comes and goes in a blur. But anyway.
Oh yeah, Friday I smashed up my work phone. That was a new thing for me.
I saw your photo.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah, no, that's the first time I've ever broken a phone, actually.
Yeah, last year was the first time I ever broke a phone, too.
Yeah, it was really dumb, too. I had it in my back pocket, and I was in my car, and I didn't have to drive very far. It was like a 30-second drive, so normally when I get in my car, I always pull my phone out of my back pocket and set it on the seat beside me, because I have two phones, my work phone and my personal phone. And so I always set my work phone on the seat beside me so it's not sitting in my back pocket. Because, you know, you hear stories about people that leave their phone and then they sit on it and they break their phone. But this, where my office is and where one of our clients is such a short distance that I needed to go that I was like, okay, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be out of the car in 30 seconds. Like, it is so close. You could easily walk there, but I had a whole bunch of crap in my car that I needed to take. So I couldn't walk. And then I got there, I shut it off, went to jump out, and as I was getting out of the car, it was like that shift on my ass of like pressing against the phone as I went to get out of my car, I guess, mixed with the that torsion of, you know, pulling on it, and I just heard this little pop, and I was like, no.
Uh-oh.
And then I thought maybe it just caught on something. I was like, no, and I pulled it out, and sure enough, it was all shattered. And I was like, son of a bitch.
On the plus side, it wasn't your personal phone.
I know. But now I have to have the loaner phone at work.
What is it? What is it, a Nokia flip phone?
No, it's funny enough, it's actually the exact same phone I already had for work, except that we had an employee that he's no longer with us because he moved on, but it was his old phone, and he was notoriously hard on phones. So it's the exact same. Yeah, it's the exact same phone, which is a Sony Xperia X Performance, which I love. It's a great phone. I'd had it it'll be 2 years, I think in June or July. But now I have to have his old one, and he did a number on it. There's a crack in the screen on the bottom. The headphone jack doesn't work. It's just, yeah.
Are you stuck with it until they get you a new one, or?
Yeah, I mean, for now, ultimately, yeah, like it's one of those things where, because I broke my other one, it's one of those things like, well, when your plan is up, like when your number is up for a new phone, then you can get one. But until then, you got the loaner phone. So I get the loaner phone till then.
Quite different from working for the phone company where it's like, here's another new phone.
Yeah. Funny how that works, hey?
Yeah, that is funny how that works.
Yeah. So
I hate technology. So
I know, and it happened like
at least it was your work phone, man. Jeez, like,
I know.
Same with mine. The first phone I broke was a work phone, so I was like a little upset. But man, if it was my personal phone,
oh, I know,
I literally would have probably cried.
I know. I went into my boss and I was like, I showed him, I was just like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, hey man, he's like, you've never broken any like hardware. You're always really good with your computer. You're always really good with phones. He's like, you've had that thing for just about 2 years. He's like, honestly, I just chalk it up to the fact that it was 2 years of hard use and it was more of a freak accident than anything, so don't worry about it. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, thanks.
It's kind of like a not if, but when,
yeah.
Right?
So, and I mean, I use my work phone a lot, like every day,
same with
you
me.
know, so, and it's sitting on stuff and always with me. So it's definitely lived a long, hard life. So, but yeah. So he was good about it, but it just sucked because it was first thing, like in the morning. And I had to.
Then you're like, God damn it, I need that for work.
Exactly. And like we have 2-factor set up on some of our stuff at the office, so like I can't get into our systems and things like that without looking at the codes and stuff from my phone, which is like so here I am like trying to use my broken ass phone all day, trying to like log in and out of stuff, and like, oh, it sucked.
Did I tell this story on here when I broke my work laptop?
Yeah,
like when I broke that thing, I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything because all my testing, all your equipment, my, like,
stuff's
account
on there.
Configuration stuff's on there.
Yep.
And it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Thank God. I think, like I said, when I told the story, it happened at the end of the day and I was done all my work.
Right.
But if it was the start of my day, I would have been a very bad day.
Yep. You got to go back to the office and get another one. Yeah, no.
If you had another one, which you did.
So I got back to the office and my boss already had the loaner phone sitting on my desk.
Dun, dun, dun.
But then it's a whole matter of then you got to like transfer everything over, and it's such a pain. Luckily,
it is a pain.
Luckily, the Sony phones have their Xperia transfer app, and it is the bee's knees. It is awesome. It will transfer everything, pictures, you name it, all your apps, all the settings, all your messaging, everything. It's all you need to do is pretty much like sign into a couple of things on the new phone. Like it even pulls over your accounts and stuff and your passwords and everything. Like it's rad. Yeah, so that was actually really nice. So
I'm still on the bee's knees, Grandpa. Just like, what?
Well, you'd said bananas earlier. I was going to say it's like bananas, but that seems like a cliche thing now that people are saying.
Or it's like good.
So, yeah.
It works.
So I figured I'd use the bee's knees. I'm bringing it back.
It was never in to be brought back. Moving along from broken technology.
Ugh, yes.
And leaky E3s. I wanted to thank everyone who has reviewed us on iTunes. Thank you very much. Obviously, with your help, I just have some good news to share with everyone. I have been approved for my media pass for E3, which is awesome. I had an industry badge, but obviously with the podcast getting some good traction lately, we managed to jump through their hoops for qualification for that, which is pretty awesome because that's always a pain in the butt.
Fair enough. That's pretty sweet.
And yes, I appreciate that, everyone. Thank you for helping with that because that, I just like having that cool yellow bit. Well, I don't know what color it's going to be this year. That cool different badge separates you from everyone else, and everyone always gives you a little sideways look like, who's that? I might have to talk to that guy. It also makes my BSing and going, hey, I'm from here, and yeah, I want to see your stuff. It always makes that conversation go a little easier.
Fair enough.
As opposed to, who are you? What? No. What? Get out of here. Quit bugging us. Get in line. Shut up. Not that I actually have that problem, but anyway. Thank you, everybody. And, of course, that brings me to the Super Nintendo contest. Yes, I know. I haven't drawn a winner yet. It's still sitting in my drawer. I've been freaking busy doing stuff, and I haven't had a chance to make the list yet. This is the second week in a row.
Yeah,
second now.
You got to get on it. I need to remind you, and it's actually funny because I was gonna remind you earlier and ask you about it, and then
we have a long weekend coming up, so I will have some extra time, and no if and or buts. I will choose a winner live on next week's show.
Okay,
and if I am not ready, and I don't do it next week, I will get another Super Nintendo. How's that sound?
Sounds all right.
And you guys can hold me over the coals for that. So if I don't get my ass in gear, I'm going to have to draw 2 people.
All right.
Does that sound fair?
I mean, I think it sounds all right.
Yeah. Anyway. Let's get into some what you've been playing. Dane?
Yo.
Would you like to start? Or
I could talk about what I have been playing. It's honestly a whole lot of God of War. That is, I'm deep into the gods of war now. Getting further along, obviously, and I feel like that game has a little bit of a slow start. It's funny. I shouldn't say a slow start.
Oh, it does. It kind of does.
Because like the first, not that long. I don't know, like what the first 20 minutes, half an hour. Is incredible. Like it has one of the most incredible sort of intriguing scenes and moving scenes, especially at the very beginning as well, which is awesome. But then for whatever reason, it kind of goes into a bit of a lull, if you will. It's still good, and the gameplay is still great, and they're building little bits and pieces here and there, but it's a little bit slow. Like, I don't know how to explain it. But as you push past that and you get into the meat and you get more abilities and more story elements unlocked and you start seeing and learning more about the universe and everything else, man, does that game ever pick up, and like it starts to get into that realm of I don't want to put this down. All I want to do is play this game. I wonder if I can take tomorrow off so I can play this game. Like it really starts to grab hold.
It definitely has that effect. I haven't had a game grab me like that in a long time.
Yeah,
I found the pacing to be phenomenal in this game.
Well, like I said, it was just that initial little bit. Like I played it a bit and then I set it down and. Like, I knew I wanted to play more.
It really eases you into it, that's for sure.
Right.
It's like, at first, I know you could be like, oh, yeah, this doesn't seem like there's a lot here. It doesn't seem that in depth. The combat's very simple. Like, it's just like, okay. And it's going at, like a little plodding pace at the start there, for sure.
Right.
And then, like you said, you get to that point, and it's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, there's some stuff that starts to happen, and it is like, whoa.
And then it just becomes like a continual roller coaster ride, up and down, up and down, up and down. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm more or less.
How many hours do you think you're in?
I don't know. That is honestly one thing that I do definitely wish that they would have done is added a clock.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying
because
they didn't.
Yeah, and it's so hard to like on this show, like in this particular case, it's hard to say where I'm at because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that maybe is wanting to play and hasn't picked it up yet.
Okay, spoiler alert. I'm going to say something.
Okay.
Skip 30 seconds ahead, and it's only one word. Okay. 4 words.
Okay.
No, 6 words.
Okay.
Okay, spoiler alert now. I'll give you a little pause and skip for 30 seconds if you don't want to hear anything.
Maybe I should be the one to mention where I'm at, because I don't want you to spoil it for me.
It's not really a spoiler. It's in the goddamn key art of the game.
All right.
Have you gotten to the boat?
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, yes.
It's not really a spoiler because it's on the freaking...
Yeah, no.
It's on...
No, I've
it's
gotten
on the,
there.
Is it on the cover? Is it the cover art? I think it's on the actual cover art of the game.
You might be right, actually. It might be part of that.
But I don't have the physical game. I got it digitally. Thank you, Sony. I love you very much.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely there. That's... Yeah, I've...
So if you skipped ahead, you're safe. We went past the spoiler, which isn't a spoiler. It's absolutely not a spoiler, actually.
No, it really isn't.
This game physically.
It really isn't. Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's where the game really changes for sure.
Yes, no, I'm several hours into having the boat and exploring a large part of that initial area with the boat, and then also when you try to figure out how to say this without giving anything kind of away. A certain somebody, you hit a certain part of your journey where you cannot go any further and you have to go backwards in order to go forward. How's that? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of, and then from there, I went and did a thing somewhere else. And now I've made it back.
Nice.
And that's
essentially
where I kind of left it. Is I made it back to that sort of initial place after that first foyer into somewhere else.
Yeah, and you've literally just scratched the surface.
I get that feeling.
Such a good game. Like I said, I platinumed it. It was so good.
Yeah,
I couldn't get enough, and I kind of want to go back still, but then it's like, no, Dad, Rico, you platinum this game. You're just playing it for the sake of playing it at this point.
Yeah, jeez.
Which is where I could see some people wanted some DLC and stuff, but I agree with the game director.
Corey,
I think that's his title. Corey's. He's like, no, there's no DLC. There's no plans for additional stuff. We wanted a tight, complete story. We didn't want to take or leave anything out of it.
Right.
And it's like at the same time, it's like, oh man, but I want more.
Yeah.
But the more is going to be in the sequel, which is, he said they've got a framework laid out for at least a trilogy.
Yeah.
Like 3 more games.
Yeah, they haven't announced that those are coming. He just said that, hey, I've got it in my head for the story to make these things happen. So if this game does really well, which it totally has, then we very well may see the end of that, or at least what's in his head.
Oh man, can you believe it's almost been a month since that game came out?
Ugh. I just want some time to play some games. Especially with this one, it's I want a day or several hours to really dive into it.
I think I played like 2 to 4 hours every night. I was like late nights every night.
Wow,
on that one because I just couldn't put it down. I've been playing. I think we can move along, right?
Yeah,
move along.
Yeah, no, it's that
we're gonna have
that game is so hard to talk about without giving anything away, and I don't want to. Well, and I don't want you to give anything away to me, and I don't want to give something away to somebody else that might not be there.
There's some amazing spoilers that's why I was so happy I got to play it early because there was no possibility for it to get spoiled.
Right.
But there's some stuff in it that can get spoiled. So
yeah.
When you beat it, we'll do a spoiler cast at the end of one of our episodes.
Word.
I think that is a given. I've been playing SteamWorld Dig 2 still.
How are you liking it? Still awesome?
I like it. I'm playing on the Switch. It's still awesome.
Nice.
Definitely gotten a little harder. There's a bunch of new enemies that have started to crop up. I'm level 13, if that means anything to anyone out there in terms of progression.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I got a jetpack now. I got grenades. I got a grappling hook. I got a lot of stuff.
Sweet.
I think there's still a lot of game left.
Yeah, I heard that they've added quite a bit from the first one, so
that's a cool game, man. Like I'm I'm loving it. It's a perfect Switch game too.
I was just gonna say, I feel like it's probably real good on the Switch.
It's got a pretty decent map. You can actually, and it guides you with where to like generalized direction you need to go for like the storyline.
Right.
But you can actually turn that off, like if you don't want that, which is kind of neat. And they even have like an item that if you want to make it harder, so like if you're replaying it.
Okay.
So there's some tweaks to the gameplay if you've already beaten it once and are doing it again. But yeah, it's a fun game. It's a perfect Switch game.
That's awesome.
It runs great, and I'm still having lots of fun. I played some more Tropical Freeze as well. Not as much as I would have liked, just because right now...
That is a game I'm like kind of really on the fence about picking up.
It's beautiful. Like when I play it, I'm like, I'm like, God damn it, I forgot this is a real full console, because it's such a contrast going from SteamWorld Dig 2, which looks beautiful, but it's stylized 2D pixel art or whatever, right? And then Tropical Freeze is 3D rendered. Holy crap! This I shouldn't be able to play this. Oh yeah, I'm not on a 3DS. I'm on a real goddamn console. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I'd like to play more than I have of that, but for whatever reason, I'm just addicted to SteamWorld. I will say, I haven't played like any console games. I've been strictly Switch. I played a little bit of Destiny last week, and we talked about that last week when the expansion came out.
Yeah.
Again, I beat that story, and I haven't gone back. Partially just because my brother-in-law is away on vacation.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of feel like I just want to play that when he's around to do the progress together, because there's like a lot of exotic storylines and endgame content that we could do together that isn't the raid.
Okay.
So I kind of feel like I just want to do that with him. I don't want to.
This is terrible. So I actually completely forgot that Destiny had it. Like this weekend, there was a few times where I was sitting around, when my wife was awake and I wasn't able to play God of War. There was a few times where I was like, man, I should really like dive into something else. I wonder what I should play. And then nothing really popped up in my head besides the 1,000,001 things that I do have to play. Don't get me wrong. I have lots of stuff to play. That's not the problem. But I just didn't have that pull for any one particular thing. And I completely forgot that the Destiny 2 expansion had come out and I'd already started it.
Yeah, you started it.
So that's, I mean, I hear that it's not that long. Like,
no, it's so short.
Like, I heard it's almost half of his, well, maybe not half, but it's quite a bit shorter even than the first expansion that they released was.
It's better than the Osiris one.
Right.
Probably more so because of the additions to the game in general that came with Season 3 as well.
Okay.
It is probably a better story, but man, it's over so fast. It's like, oh, okay, that's done.
Wow.
There's some post expansion quest lines and stuff, but
right.
the main stuff I feel like is over so fast.
Wow, that's kind of disappointing.
But whatever, I still had fun with it. Like, still good old Destiny.
Yeah,
it's one of the best shooters in the world.
And that's the thing. It's like the shooting in that game is so good. When I think about
then the exotics are amazing.
Yeah, when I think about playing a FPS game and shooting some dudes, like that game is hard to not remember or to want to play. Like it is really good. So yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about it too, but
so I need to go back and I need to at least play through it because I
reminding
paid for
myself I'm gonna have to log back in and pick up our clan rewards.
There you go.
It is a new week.
Yep.
I guess the biggie it's out now by the time you listen to this, is Battle Chasers Nightwar on the Switch.
Yeah.
Now, there isn't...
Continue?
What?
No, I have a bit of a story to go with this, but go ahead.
There isn't too much to say. Like, this game's been out for 7 or 8 months now. It came out in October on, PS4, PC, and Xbox?
Yep.
Everyone who has a Switch can now own it, except for Dane, maybe.
Yeah, so as a Kickstarter backer, I backed the game 2 years ago or whenever it was. When it launched, if you put in for a Switch code, they also gave you a Steam key to play it on PC, because they were like, look, the Switch version has been delayed a lot longer, and we're not really sure when it's coming out due to issues with the Unity engine, which we use to create this game, and the Switch. So it's not really us, it's more the Unity and the engine working with the Switch, etc., etc. So here's a Steam key, so if you want, you can play it on PC now, which I totally got. I've played 40 hours of it or something like that on Steam on my PC already. Love the game. It's fucking awesome. If you haven't bought it yet, go do it, because it's on whatever platform. But I was holding out for the Switch version because I just felt like it was such a good fit for that. 2D, the art, the just being able to take it with you, dive in, play a couple battles, put it in sleep mode, come back, start where you left off. Like, it just seemed like such a good fit on the Switch. So that's all fine and dandy. It is out now, finally. But the funny thing is that because when they published the game and they got their Switch codes, apparently I got an email from I'm trying to remember the name of the studios right now. Anyways, the studio emailed out and said, like, hey, we apologize to all of our Kickstarter backers, but we actually have to get codes from Nintendo to give to you. So you can go buy it on the store now. You can buy it in store on physical cartridges as well, or you can buy it digitally. So it's out, but we haven't been able to get codes from Nintendo to get our Kickstarter backers. So they were working with their publisher, which in this case is THQ Nordic, to get in touch, and get all that stuff sorted out. So essentially, it's funny that I have been one of the biggest backers of, I shouldn't say one of the biggest, but I've been wholeheartedly behind this game.
You've been a huge fan. You've talked about the comic.
Oh, absolutely. That's actually the biggest reason I backed this game, is because he was going to finish the freaking comic, and I wanted in on that action. I didn't even care at that point if the game sucked, as long as he finished the comic. That's what I wanted.
Yeah. That was one of the rewards, right?
Yeah, there was a reward tier where you got the issue 10, 11, 12, because he stopped it at 9 issues. So
it's Airship Syndicate, by the way.
Yes, thank you. So it's funny because the game came out and now I am actually waiting for a code for my Switch version because they're waiting on Nintendo now. So so it's kind of a funny story, but I'm really excited to play that on my Switch. I love that game, and what's really cool, I gotta admit, if you haven't played it yet and you are just getting it on your Switch, they did announce that essentially all of the updates and all of the changes and the different balance stuff that they've made changes to and whatnot over the last, 6 months since it came out in October.
Yeah.
Those are all going to be in the Switch version. So not only are you going to get it on your Switch, you're also getting by far and away the best version of that game. And I say that as somebody who's played day one and has seen some of these patches come along and made fantastic changes to the game, and just quality of life stuff and just things that make sense. And I'm glad they made changes to. There was initially a really sharp difficulty spike between after you pretty much finished the second dungeon.
Yeah, that's what I was reading here in the patch notes. They adjusted the XP curve to alleviate stalling in mid game.
Totally. So my first game, I ended up
You complained about that on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It was something that I totally ran into where like I was cruising along, did the first dungeon. It was challenging, but not ridiculous. Kind of got into the second dungeon, but
I think you were.
But then by the time I finished the second dungeon and I went to the third, there was quite a large level gap where it was saying...
you had to go back and replay, right?
Yeah, so I essentially went back and replayed the second dungeon over. I might have even played the first dungeon over again on a harder difficulty, sort of as a way to, I guess, just level up, grind out some levels. Yeah, so that I was at a better spot to take on the third dungeon. So it sounds like they've adjusted a lot of that stuff much better now. So like I said, and they've just made little tweaks to the way that you get gold, the amount of golds that you're getting, all of that kind of stuff, which is just, they've been little stuff, but they've been great. So if you're playing it on Switch now, you're getting the best version of that game. And I think so. I don't think I even finished the first dungeon on PS4. I have it on PS4. Right.
And so I got it on Switch a couple weeks ago, but I couldn't talk about it besides just the fact that I had it.
Right.
And which was kind of weird because the game was out already. But I don't know. I guess maybe they were worried about bugs or some other stuff.
I can see where they just kind of wanted people to be able to...
Now playing it and it's here and I can talk about it, like, there's no issues with the Switch version. There's a couple like frame rate hiccups I noticed in the overworld and in the dungeons, but they don't affect gameplay at all.
Right.
Like those aren't gameplay sensitive sections where that happens, and they're so short and infrequent that they aren't a bother.
Yeah,
you don't get, obviously.
That's the only thing that an Airship Syndicate said flat out, that is one of the differences, is that on console it runs at 60 frames a second on all the consoles, and obviously on PC, if you're, PC's able to, you can easily do that as well. Whereas on the Switch version, I don't know if they said that it's running at 30 or if it was locked or not, but they did say that it's not running at 60 on...
Oh yeah, it's definitely not. I want to say it's a 30 and then there's dips.
Yeah, and that wouldn't surprise me.
And I don't know if those dips are because of the engine or because of the loading from the memory card. I'm not playing the cart version, so I don't know if there's a performance difference between the two. You'd figure that a memory card would be high speed, right?
Yeah. We've talked about this on the podcast before. The Switch is a weird one for me. I don't fully understand why the loading on the Switch is a bit of an issue, because you're dealing with a solid state memory inside the Switch, and you're talking about cartridges. If assuming you're using a cartridge, or even if you've just got it loaded onto the internal memory, not even including like fast SD memory, which I know for myself, like I purchased a 128 gig SD card, but the read and writes on that are fantastic. Like I made sure to get a high speed one. I don't fully understand how loading times on that console are a problem. Like, and I don't know if it's limited by the CPU in this case. Like it's waiting for the CPU to do things, and that's,
or the memory of the console.
Yeah, but it's just odd to me that you're dealing with like I said, solid state RAM, like drive, which is much faster than the drive in, say, a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One. Yet it seems like that is a challenge that not just these guys have, but a lot of people have on the Switch.
I don't. A micro SD is still slower than an actual true SSD, though, is it not?
Sure, yeah. But we're still talking, depending on the one you buy, and of course they vary wildly.
They vary in quality.
Oh yes,
greatly,
big time.
I will say Tropical Freeze. There's no hiccups,
right?
And it's 60 FPS.
Yeah.
So it's partial. It must partially be like the engine they're using or whatnot. So anyway, they're so small that they don't detract from the game. Where it matters most in the combat, it looks fluid and it looks phenomenal on the Switch's screen. And that, again,
awesome. It
just has me going, oh yeah, this is a full console, not a stupid handheld. And every day, and it's fantastic. And it being a turn-based, heavily themed, like JRPG influenced game with amazing artwork and art direction and style. Mm-hmm. It looks fantastic on the Switch, and it's a perfect portable game because of the turn-based combat. You could just put it in sleep mode and, move along if you have to put it down.
Because that's the challenge playing it on PC or console, is that like if you're in the middle, because of the way the game works, if you're in the middle of a dungeon and you stop, you have to play through the dungeon again to the point that you're at. It's only
or you have to hopefully put it in sleep mode and then it doesn't get interrupted when you can come back to play it again. But yeah.
Totally. So I guess it's a similar thing on the Switch. Could in theory,
yeah, because if you leave the dungeon, like there's fast travel points in the dungeons,
yep.
So you could fast travel out, but the enemies would respawn, right?
Yes,
and the dungeon layout would stay the same, though, right?
The dungeon layout for that particular run will stay the same, but the enemies will all respawn.
Yeah. So if you weren't familiar with Battle Chasers, you missed it when we talked about it 6, 7, 8 months ago, or October. It's top-down overworld. Enemies are on the map, so you can see them. You can't really avoid them on the overworld because usually they're in your path to the next point that you're progressing to. But they aren't random battles. And of course, in the dungeons, you see the enemies as well. In the dungeons, you can switch between your party members quite freely. And they actually have dungeon abilities, which can affect going into combat, which is kind of neat. Wait. Like with Gully can stun or do a ground pound, and some enemies, if they're susceptible to it, will be stunned when the battle starts. What's his nuts?
You thinking
guy with the big sword?
Oh man, it's been a while since I played this now. Crap. I was thinking Caligstro is the big war golem. He can heal your party when you're out of combat or when you're running around. And Garrison can slash.
Calibretto.
Yeah.
Is the golem. Yeah. Garrison has like a dodge so you can avoid traps in the dungeon. Calibretto has like a group heal, which he can do in helpful. The dungeons.
But you only have a set amount of those abilities.
You can't spam them. Yeah, you can only use them so many times until you sleep at the inn. And of course, it's a top-down 3/4 perspective when you're in the dungeons. And like I said, you can see the enemies. And when you initiate combat, it goes in your 2D side, 2D, turn-based combat, a la Final Fantasy or like any other kind of old-school RPG.
I do want to point out, too, just so nobody gets confused, when you enter the dungeon, you pick a party of 3. And in the dungeon, you can have one of those 3 as your main at any given time, so that you can use their dungeon ability, things like that. But you can only use the 3 that you take into the dungeon with you. So unless you leave the dungeon, you cannot change your party. And even if you leave the dungeon, if you change your party, it will reset that dungeon. Just so nobody gets confused.
Yeah, it's a great game.
It's challenging.
And it's a beautiful game. Yeah, it's very strategic.
There's a lot of
combat. There's buffs and debuffs.
Oh yes,
there's
big time.
There's a big mechanic. You've got your quick attacks, which are free, and then you've got your abilities, which cost. They call it mana. Is it mana? What do they call it?
There's action points and there's mana points. And you get
it's mana, and you build overcharge when you use your basic attacks, which are quick instant attacks.
Yeah,
they have different abilities, different stuff they do. Some of them add buffs or debuffs to the enemies, and as you use those, you build overcharge, which allows you to use your abilities basically for free, sort of, without having to dip into your actual mana. Which is it's a little balance of charge up, do a free attack, or if you really need to take an enemy down, use your mana. The thing is you're going to end up having to use items or whatnot to recharge your mana, and they aren't aplenty, and they're not. Well, maybe later in the game they're less expensive, so it isn't that much of an issue. But it's very, very. The combat is super strategic. It's
really good though. Like I feel like they've done a really great job of balancing the whole thing where it's strategic and you need to be thinking about it, but it's also fun.
Yeah, and it's fair. It's not, but you can't get away with just like to be honest, in most Final Fantasy games, you just sit there hitting X, 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 attack, and you just do your basic attack and brute force your way through. It kind of
that's not.
It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like that's very effective here because
especially later on,
enemies can do pretty devastating attacks, and when you're in combat, you can it shows you on the side of the screen the attack order. So depending what attack ability or your big ability, I forget what they call that again. You're the one that you charge up over time. What do they call that?
Oh, that's different than your overcharge.
It's the meter that you build up as you fight. And then you get the super big attacks with the kind of little cutscenes.
Yeah, and there's 3 levels of those that you can unlock as you
I'm
go.
Blanking on what they call that.
I know.
But anyway, it shows you your order on the side there as you're attacking. So depending on what attack you can see whether, if I use this attack, then the enemy's going to get to go. Or if I decide to use this ability instead, I'll get to go first, which, I'm kind of in a bind here. 2 of my party members are weak. I got to take this guy out first. I can't let him go first and put me in a precarious position, right? So,
and also some attacks that you do will also bump the enemy. Certain attacks will actually bump their order down as well. So if you do a certain attack, you'll notice that it'll bump the enemy's attack down so that you might be able to get another hit in. Which is really cool because sometimes, depending on the abilities and who you're fighting and what you're fighting and things like that, you can actually go in and almost like lock the other guy out if you do it right by using.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
When you first fight an enemy, you don't know how many hit points they have. Do you know what type of enemy they are even?
No, you get.
You got a compendium that fills up as you fight the enemies.
Yeah.
And then it unlocks more and more information. And eventually you'll know everything from their name, their hit points, their weaknesses, their attacks, and so forth. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's a really cool system.
You got fishing, you got crafting, you've got your typical
there's a battle
RPG.
arena.
You've got your loot.
There's a great big battle arena that you can do multiple levels of that.
Yeah. There's even hunts, right, for that one chick in the town?
Yep. You'll get these hunts where you'll essentially get it's like a quest to go look into something and to generally obviously kill something, which then helps out big time with loot and levels and weapons. That's the other thing, is that you have to unlock the 3rd level ability for your characters, and that's some of the characters that is like just fighting and playing the game and leveling up, and other characters that is like you have to go and actually find like a specific item or do a specific thing, which then you can come back and that will unlock the 3rd level abilities, which is really cool. Your limit gauge, essentially. It's like a limit break in Final Fantasy. So you have 3 levels of it. And so the first 2, I believe, are fairly straightforward kind of unlocks, but that 3rd level, in order to unlock that, for some characters, there's like a little something extra that you got to do, in order to do that, which is kind of neat because it adds that another layer to it. It's not just like, here you go. You also get, as you play the game, you're going to get more party members that are going to have, like, the initial 3 that you start the game with are they're a really good team together, I'm not going to lie. And then you get, as you start adding in party members, they have different, like, pluses and minuses depending on how you're going to play, and it can really change the dynamics. I mean, the original 3 that you start the game with, you have very much one guy. Garrison is very much your offensive player. He is your damage dealer. He is there to put down damage. Gully, her whole thing is to deal damage, but also to help mitigate damage. She has a lot.
Yeah, she's like your tank.
Yeah, kind of. And she has a lot of ways to, like, shield damage and to shield other characters from having damage. A lot of, like, buffs and like debuffs on the enemies, things like that. And then Calibretto, strangely enough, being a war golem, is actually
the big giant.
He's a gentle giant. That's why. He's actually like a healer, and he's great. So you have that initially is very much that. And then when you start adding the other characters that come along, what's funny is that when you swap one of these other characters out for one of the base party, there's suddenly weaknesses and strengths that you maybe hadn't thought of, and it brings in a much different style of play. For example, one of the characters that comes along has a group heal, which is great, but he doesn't really have a single heal. So it's like you can heal the group fairly well, but he doesn't really have that single strong heal to help with one person. So you kind of got to weigh that. Like, is that going to be better for you or worse for you? Also, he's actually more of a damage dealer first when a healer second. So you got to think, like, okay, is that who I want to bring in instead of Calibretto? Because he's awesome at damage dealing, but he's not, his focus is kind of on mitigating that and to helping with healing and stuff. So you kind of gotta, and then there's also damage types in the game. So you're going to there's piercing damage and there's slashing damage. There's all kinds of different damage. And so different characters will do different types of damage. And when you attack an enemy and you do certain types of damage, that's going to also have effects. So if you do stabbing damage, there's a good chance that character will then have a bleed left on him, which is then going to drop off hit points over the next couple of turns. Whereas, like, some characters are going to attack with magic damage, and some enemies are much more susceptible to magic damage, and some enemies are much more susceptible to physical damage. So you got to be careful not to weigh your team too heavily with magical, but at the same time not too heavily with physical.
Yeah, it's always a balancing act.
Oh, totally. And I can tell you from experience, there is a couple of boss fights in that game that they'll make you sweat, especially
I barely beat that first boss.
Oh, really?
I like lucked out.
Yeah. There's some bosses that, like, they have their own limit breaks, essentially. And the first boss that I fought that did essentially a limit break to me, I was just like, oh, fuck off. Are you kidding me right now?
I think the first boss might have pulled one off on me.
Yeah.
And that's where I almost lost the battle.
It wouldn't. Yeah, that might be right. So yeah,
it's a cool game, man. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of systems, crafting, fishing.
Oh yeah, there's a whole crafting system in the game. There's a whole fishing mini game.
I don't know how much it is on the Switch. I want to say it's like $40.
I was gonna say I think it's 39 Canadian. I want to say.
Yeah, so I think it's 29 American. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not a huge ask, but man, I know I've dropped somewhere in the realm of 40 hours, and I'm probably maybe halfway through the game.
It's right now it's 50% off on Steam.
Oh. Oh.
So it's $16.50 on Steam if you don't have a Switch, and it sounds intriguing. I will say though, if you're not into turn-based combat, this game will probably not be for you. So just be wary of that if you've never liked a turn-based game in the past. I don't know.
No, I don't think this is going to necessarily.
I don't think it's going to change your impressions, but it isn't random encounters, and it is a little more strategic combat. So maybe those might be things that might get you into this type of genre. A fantastic game. I say, someone asked me what I would give it. I'd say it's a solid 8.
Yeah.
It's a good game.
For me, I'd probably give it a little higher just because I have the nostalgia factor from the comic books and stuff. But yeah, I think that's a really...
It might be higher when I play it farther. Like I don't know how far I am. Like I'm not that far. Like I'm only on the second dungeon.
Oh yeah, so, you're long way to go.
I'm pretty early, and I will say the game clock is screwed on this game. I don't know if they patched it, but putting it into sleep mode on the Switch, I came back to it, and it's like 52 hours, and I'm like, I have not played this game for 50 hours.
It must think that when it's asleep that it's still ticking away. Then that's funny.
I will say though, on an unrelated note, I didn't mow the lawn this week, so I'm not getting all raspy.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
I'm not dying having coughing fits. I listened to the podcast last week, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's where I muted it because I was dying. A little awkward silence.
Fair enough.
Like, just a hint of advice to people: if you have allergies and you do a podcast or have to talk to people, don't mow the lawn the day that you have to do that.
Yeah. Or wear a mask, man.
I mowed the lawn yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
And I have a drink this week too, which helps. I think the problem was last week I didn't wear my gloves, and that's when it's really bad. Because then I get all that grass shit. It just gets absorbed through my skin, and I think that's where the pollen really kills me.
Interesting.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But I apologize if my coughing and dying fits last week bothered you.
I accept your apology.
Yeah, Battle Chasers Nightwar on Switch. It's great.
Yeah.
Check it out.
If you don't have a Switch, feel free to pick it up on PC or PS4.
If you don't have a Switch, man, you should buy a Switch, and we're going to get to that in a little bit.
Okay.
Speaking of which, let's move along into our news section.
Boo, 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 boo.
Time for the news.
Hey, that's not bad.
5 cents. Get your video game news. 5 cents.
You're cheap newsy.
Like it was like that old-timey guy on the box, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even have video games. Oh, man. Life must have been so sad back then.
One might argue that life was a lot simpler, and that life is sad now.
I gladly accept all the complications of living in today's society for the escapism that is available.
Fair enough.
They didn't have that back then.
No, they didn't.
I don't think they even had. They had books. I guess books was I guess as nerds we would have all been into books.
Yep, and radio shows. You sit down and you listen to radio shows.
That's true. Radio shows are pretty good. That's that's like the original podcast.
Yeah.
Except for they had sound effects and stories, which is pretty great.
Exactly.
There's a few podcasts out there that are literally just straight up that.
Yeah.
A lot of audiobooks are like that too, with the sound effects and basically you're like listening to a movie.
Mm-hmm. So
anyway.
There you go.
Cross-platform PC news. Battlefield 1 fans unlock a door leading to Battlefield 2018's reveal date. This story is from Polygon. And there's been an update since this was published, but basically there was this locked door in Battlefield 1 that players of the original game were kind of like, I don't know how they figured out something was behind that door by listening to water dripping from a pipe, and someone realized that it was Morse code.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So, I think after figuring out the Morse code, they realized the trick to unlocking the door was breaking signs and doing some weird stuff. Anyway, there's a whole story on how they figured it out. And basically they were rewarded with the reveal date, which happens to be next week.
Really?
Yeah, EA is having an event, pre-E3 live Battlefield V or 5 or V for victory, because the rumor is
they're going back to World War II.
That it's World War II, yeah. So May 23rd, we will have our first look at the next Battlefield. And this wasn't... it's kind of funny. I was talking about leaks earlier. This wasn't exactly a leak per se, but it was a leaky pipe. No. Speaking of which, in leaks, I'm just going to do this in order because we're kind of on the topic. Remember the Walmart leak of last week?
That was a big leak.
The big leak where someone hit the button that they probably shouldn't have hit the button.
And a lot of that we kind of looked at and went, I don't know how much of this is for real. Like, some of this stuff seems pretty out of left field. I don't know.
Forza Horizon 5 when there's no 4.
And Rage 2? Like, come on.
Which was one that was like, what? And then, hey,
guess
Bethesda
what?
came out. It's kind of funny. Their reactions to the leak were pretty fantastic. Because, like, actually Bethesda, like, tweeted, like, bro, like, dude, what? Like, at Walmart. They're like, bro. Like, just the funniest tweets and reactions back to them.
It was pretty good.
And they never denied it. And then they started releasing images teasing. And then they had a teaser trailer on Monday. And then on Tuesday that just passed, they actually released the official gameplay trailer for Rage 2. Apparently, they were on track to reveal it at the end of this week. So it didn't really affect their plans, but it did take the surprise out of it. Because, honestly, I don't think anyone was expecting a Rage 2.
No. I mean, the first Rage was...
It was decent. I own it. I liked it. I played through it.
I was going to say I don't think it was that much of a success as far as a financial success goes. My understanding is that it kind of waffled pretty hard and it didn't sell overly great. A
big part of it was the new id Tech engine that they were pushing, right? Kind of like the streaming open world. Like it was supposed to be a showpiece for was it id Tech 5 or is that right?
That was their. Oh man, we're talking, and that would have been.
Because it was a while ago.
That would have been id Tech 5 and their ultra texture stuff.
Ultra textures and all the cool stuff. They were hoping, and it just never really caught on because Unreal kind of blew up instead. But it wasn't a bad game. I liked it. The trailer looks cool. It's from Avalanche Studios and id Software.
Which is interesting to me because one of the leaks out of that Walmart was that we might see a Just Cause 4, which is also Avalanche Studios.
Is it?
Yeah. So when I saw that they were the ones doing this, I was like, interesting. Do they have two teams then? I don't know.
They must. Well, they just came off of Mad Max, the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same devs that were on Mad Max. Yeah, it is Avalanche. Yeah, Just Cause. That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Well, that second.
And yeah, Just Cause 4 is another of the leaked titles, which seems pretty obvious. I think Just Cause is done quite well.
Yeah, I don't know how well the
not like
third
triple
one
A,
did, but I know that second one. The second one was incredible.
I never played the Just Cause games.
No? Oh man, you want to talk about a sandbox? Oh, they're fantastic.
I own 3 somewhere because it was either gold or PSN Plus, wasn't it? I think.
I'm not sure. I got it for Christmas a few years ago when it first came out.
Also on that leak tip from Walmart, Borderlands 3 was one of the titles named. And on Twitter yesterday, I want to say, Randy Pitchford was out there saying that it's not going to be at E3. Which I saw another tweet today. I want to say it was from an investment call talking about a large 2K game will be coming out in 2020.
Whoa.
Highly anticipated. So it's like, I guess they're behind on development. Everyone's figuring that title that was not mentioned, that is a highly anticipated Take-Two title. And Gearbox is under Take-Two, is Borderlands 3. So,
right.
And it lines up kind of with the tweet that Randy put out there, which is kind of disappointing because I was hoping to see this at E3. I don't know if this is good news or kind of potentially bad news.
I'm going to take it as they're going to take some more time to figure out a way to make Borderlands 3 feel like a leap and not just another Borderlands game.
Yeah, like not the pre-sequel.
Yeah, like I don't know, after the second one, then they did, I mean, what would in theory be the third one? They just felt too samey.
The pre-sequel. Yeah.
Yeah, like it just felt like an expansion pack on the second one. And even the second one, I felt like compared to the first one, they tweaked a lot of things, but I don't know. At least for me personally, it was a miss a bit. I definitely did not drop nearly as much time into the second one as I did in the first one. And I think that for me just was because it felt so similar to the first one.
Yeah, I didn't even play the prequel. I'm just like, I was Borderlands out already at that point. I hope it's good. I hope there isn't problems. I'm just worried because, to be honest,
Gearbox is really up and down.
Battleborn was a huge flop, and a lot of talent that was involved with Borderlands 2, they ain't there no more.
Mm-hmm.
The lead writers on Borderlands 2, they're long gone. Some of the voice actors I know as well have, I don't think they've left, but they're just not employed by them anymore.
And Gearbox has a weird... They've made some awesome games. Obviously, Borderlands 1 and 2 are two of those games.
I feel like they were at the top when that came out, and right now I think they're in a kind of a precarious position. I could be like reading way too into it. They could be totally fine, and Borderlands 3 is going to come out and be amazing, which is a scenario that I want to happen. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I think they took a pretty big hit with Battleborn.
Yeah, I look at their track record, and you've got some great games in there that they've made, and you've got some really bad games where they just have, I don't even want to say phoned it in, where they just don't even seem like they've almost been involved.
Because they were involved. Was it the Aliens game they made that was really bad?
They made
too?
Colonial Marines. Yeah, which is one of the worst Aliens games that's come out.
And that one people were really pissed off with, because that one compared to E3 footage was just like...
Yeah, they weren't even the same game. And then there was... they were the ones that also came along and patched together the remains of Duke Nukem Forever and released that too, which, let's be honest, was not a great game.
I guess what we can just hope for is that I guess it's better not to see something that's rushed out, and that Borderlands 3 does blow our minds away, because I had a lot of fun with Borderlands 2.
Also, the way I look at it as well, that everybody else kind of seems to be forgetting, Randy Pitchford said it's not going to be at E3. That doesn't mean that it might not be at Paris. It might not be at a press conference later on in the year. It might, it could be at Game PAX.
Awards. Well, it's going to be somewhere,
right?
It's not going to be at PAX.
Yeah, you never know. So that's the only other thing that I'm going to say is this might have got leaked, and it might almost be a way for him to be like, you know what? Fuck you for leaking that shit. I'm not going to release it E3 now. I will release. I don't think
he doesn't have that much power.
I have no idea.
If it was going to be at E3, that's already committed.
Because you got to remember, though, they're an independent studio that obviously 2K is the publisher for Borderlands, but they're an independent studio. I mean, they've done games for 2K, they've done games for Sega, so I don't know I don't know where the lines of like who says what and what happens when with those guys. So, but anyways,
yeah. Well, I guess we will find out soon enough.
Yeah.
You remember that cool game Dead Cells, which I talked about a couple months ago on PC, which I stopped playing because I'm like, this game's awesome, but I want to play it on Switch.
Right. And also when it actually comes out and not just in early access.
Yeah, forgot to talk about it last week because this was actually a story from last week. But yeah, Dead Cells is going to be out of early access and launch in full release on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch this August.
Wow.
Which is pretty exciting.
That's cool.
I have a feeling this will be at E3, so I'll actually be able to play it on Switch. I've heard some people have seen it on Switch and are impressed. So I really liked it. I think it's really cool, but I own it. I bought it on Steam. I think it's awesome, but I'm just like, I just want to play it on Switch though.
So you're going to buy it again on Switch?
So I will buy it again on Switch. I'm that guy.
Fair enough.
Even though it's awesome and I could play it now. But it is also still early access. It's not a complete game.
Right.
So that's another reason I also stopped. So that's good news. We got a release date for that. I was hoping it would be sooner than later, but...
Fair enough.
Can't have everything, Rico.
I wish.
Inti Creates is releasing an 8-bit game, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon, this month. It may sound familiar because these are from the guys who are working on Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, which was a Kickstarter, and they said one of their stretch goals was we're going to make an 8-bit game for our backers, which actually is going to come out for everyone. If you were a backer at a certain level, you will get a code for it.
Right.
And it's coming out on Switch, 3DS, PS4, Vita, Xbox One, and Steam on May 24th. And it looks pretty rad. It looks a lot like a Castlevania 3 if it was like made and released today. Multiple characters, abilities.
Really?
The big hook of the game is that there's 4 characters you can switch between. And I think you can just switch on the fly. So the characters all play differently and have different abilities.
Right.
And weapons. It looks pretty great. It looks like an NES game.
That's pretty rad.
8-bit, duh. But it totally looks like Castlevania 3.
That's
which
awesome.
Is one of my favorite old school Castlevania. So
I'm trying to remember. Was really Castlevania exciting. 3? That was the last one on the original Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
It looks cool. That was I did not see that coming, let alone how soon it's coming.
Do we have a launch date yet for actual?
Nope.
No? Damn.
He said 2018 a year or two ago, so...
Right.
I assume that is something we're going to hear about very soon.
Maybe you'll get to play it at E3.
Yeah, hopefully I will get to play it at E3. I heard... I think it was behind closed doors last year.
Well, I know that they were shopping around to possibly let some people... They were gauging interest at PAX, because I remember I got an email and they were saying, like, hey... If people are interested in seeing this, we might do a little look-see-loo. So, I mean, I got to imagine that game's...
Had I seen that email, I would have said, yes, I want to see it, but I must have missed that.
Yeah.
Because that game is right up my alley. You know, I just played like a bunch of old Castlevanias not too long ago.
You're all about the Castlevanias.
I love my 2D Metroidvanias. Hence why I'm playing SteamWorld Dig right now.
That is a pretty good one.
Cliff Bleszinski announces the closure of Boss Key. So
this was kind of a sad story, to be honest with you.
It's sad, and at the same time, I'm really surprised how long they lasted, considering how much of a thud LawBreakers made when it came out of the gate.
I think I was surprised because they seemed like they had actually been building steam with their new battle royale game. Like, but it sounded like maybe because it was so early that they just realized we're gonna have to have, like, we're not getting enough money from microtransactions, and we're gonna have to put so much more time into this before we think we're gonna get something out, that they just decided it's not worth it and the money's just not there. It's interesting though. Like, why? I don't know. Like, if you're looking at it, I guess, and you think, okay, well, if we launch and it goes huge and everybody loves this, then we're laughing. But if it thuds, then that's going to be the end of us. So I guess that's in a way
it was a
Hail
little
Mary.
bit of it. It was a total Hail Mary, and I think it was too early in a state for any, like, I liked it. Mm-hmm. I played a couple games of it. Right. I managed to win a game of it, but it was so early that I could not see myself wanting to spend any money on it. Like, the cosmetics or the stuff to spend money on. It's like, well, this is like super early access, and they didn't look really cool, like a Fortnite costume or anything, because it was super early access, so it was missing that layer of polish.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know. I don't want to be an asshole, but I'm going to be an asshole. I guess I was in the minority. I never liked LawBreakers. It looked cool from the outset, but as soon as I played it, I hate to say I said so, and I've said it on this podcast before, and I'm going to sound like an asshole, and I didn't want it to fail, and I didn't want it to do bad, but I'm just like, ugh, this game is not, people aren't looking for this, regardless of how tight or good people who did enjoy it, because it did get some decent reviews from places. I'm like, this is not the game for this marketplace right now.
Yeah.
People aren't looking for this. This is not the type of multiplayer that exists today. And I just always had a feeling in my gut, kind of like when, we were questioning how Battleborn were like, I don't know about this game. And we were right on that one. I had that feeling the entire time with LawBreakers, and we had seen it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we saw it like really early initially.
Yeah, and I don't know. It was a lot of it was riding off of, it's Cliff. He made Gears of War, by himself with both arms tied behind his back, and it's like, no, he didn't. A giant studio made Gears of War. He was a huge part of it, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
But like, I don't know, like. It sucks, and it's too bad. And it's the really sad part is that one game can kill a studio. That's the really terrible thing about this freaking industry, is that one misfire can kill the opportunity of making something great.
I think you also have to take into consideration, though, the fact that I think that if you would have came out and tried to make LawBreakers on I don't know how to explain it when I say a smaller scale, but it's fairly well known in the industry that LawBreakers was not a cheap game. Like, it was a pretty expensive game to make.
I don't understand how it was so expensive.
I don't either, but I just know it was not a cheap game.
Because it didn't, like, my biggest problem too with it was, like, it didn't have good art direction, in my opinion. It didn't have any soul. It didn't have any characters that, like, Overwatch has, like, thousands of people cosplaying. I don't think anyone's ever cosplayed as a LawBreakers character, except for people that were actually paid to do it. I don't think anyone willingly is like, oh, that character looks cool. Oh, I want that skin. I want that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but my point is they're
so generic.
That's neither here nor there.
But that's where did the money go?
Right. I don't know.
There wasn't like a million maps. There wasn't a million modes. It was missing lots of stuff at launch.
But I do know it was not a cheap game. It was a fairly big studio. That's probably where a lot of the money went. It was a pretty big studio. I'm not saying it was like, Assassin's Creed big, but it was a pretty big studio for what they were trying to do. Because that game actually came out fairly rapidly. They managed to get that game out at a fairly good tick. Like, it definitely was not a game that was in development for 5 years. Like, it was a 2 or 3 year game. So, I mean, the game was not cheap to make. that I think was the single biggest, besides, it was the second single biggest factor, because the first obviously is that it didn't find an audience that wanted to continue
nobody
playing
was
it.
playing it. Even during its betas, like its peak was like thousands of players.
Yeah.
Not tens of thousands.
So I think that when you go out and you spend that kind of money and then your game flops, I think it's really hard to come back from that and say like, hey, I want to do another game. You know, your publisher's looking at you going like, whoa. We spent this kind of money. It didn't happen. You know, now you're trying to self-publish this other thing right now. And I just don't think, no, you're asking for too much money. And I think that has a lot to do with it as well. You know,
it sucks for everyone that is unemployed. There is a lot of devs in Austin where these guys are based. So
they're based in North Carolina.
I'm sure. Is it North Carolina?
Yeah, they're in Raleigh, North Carolina. They're not far from Epic, actually.
Yeah, apparently Epic is there because that's what he was complaining about a couple weeks on Twitter. He was calling out Epic, saying he's stealing their employees, but I don't know if it was so much them stealing employees or employees.
It sounds like
sinking.
Yeah,
ship.
People understood that there was something going on, and they needed to make sure that they had a job and they could pay their rent.
So he's taking a break. And
he's saying he's retiring from making games, at least for now. Who knows what'll happen? You know, spend time with his family, whatnot. Which good for him. He's might able to do that.
He might be back. It's sad, but at the same time, this is that scenario where it's a prime example of one person does not make a video game.
No, totally.
Because if it was one person,
I wonder.
You know what I mean?
I wonder if I can't help but wonder a little bit about LawBreakers, if it had to do part of it as well with the fact that they were almost like in
Fortnite and PUBG.
Well, that definitely didn't help. But no, actually,
Fortnite or PUBG was on the crazy tip when it came out.
I know that really kind of ate its
probably
lunch.
Didn't help, but I honestly.
But no, what I was going to say is I feel like they developed that a bit in a bubble. Like I feel like Cliff was saying, I want to bring back old school shooters. I want to do this, but we're gonna somehow cross it with like a hero shooter, kind of like Overwatch. But we're going to do it and we're going to make it kind of feel old school, and that's what people want. And I think that there was a bunch of people kind of around him that were like, yeah, that's a cool idea. Yeah. And maybe there was a bunch of people that's in their head was thinking like, maybe this isn't what we want. And maybe this isn't what people need right now. But I get the feeling just from the way that the game was marketed and the way that the game was presented, They pushed really hard on influencers, not really hard on traditional games media, as well as it felt like a lot of people for them that were in a bubble. That they had a lot of people going like, like, this is great. We want this. This is excellent. But they weren't listening to the larger games media that was going like, what is going on here? This is not necessarily what we want.
No, I'm going to say even if Fortnite and PUBG didn't exist, their biggest competition was Overwatch, and you didn't even come close to the level of quality of heroes as Overwatch. You can't be subpar when you have Overwatch out there. It's like, ignore Fortnite. Even if Fortnite and PUBG didn't exist, Fortnite or Overwatch already had these guys as lunch, in my opinion.
Yeah,
there's more
the question,
game
of course,
modes,
becomes
more
like,
game modes, better characters.
Why play this over Overwatch? It's doing a few things differently, but I don't think that it's doing enough.
No, it wasn't doing anything differently enough, and or even better to like set it apart. So like, there was a lot of problems with this game, and I don't know. The studio probably had a lot of, like you were saying, like a lot of yes men in a bubble. Yes, Cliff. Yes, Cliff. Yes, Cliff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And
as opposed
if
to
you
looking
have enough
at the
people
bigger
saying like, "Oh yeah, this is great. This is going to do great." And not enough people that are genuinely going to tell you what they think or what they feel, like, you can definitely end up in a situation like this. And again, I am speculating. I do not know anything
We're speculating out of our ass.
Totally.
The only thing that is true is that the game was a flop. They tried to go for a Hail Mary. That didn't work either.
Yeah.
So boom, you're in the hole $30-something million. No one's giving you money to pay the bills anymore. You have no choice but to shut down.
Yeah, and in one of his tweets, he specifically said, standing in a room asking for $40 million is not exactly not stressful. So,
no one's
that.
No one, you know what? He's not going to head another studio. I could say that pretty comfortably.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He may come back in the games industry as a director for someone else. He might go back to Epic. He might go to Microsoft. He might go somewhere else. But he's not going to be a studio head again. I could tell you that much.
He's also got enough money that at this point he can very much just continue to invest and to make more of it.
He could just sail off in the sunset and be fine, I'm sure.
Totally. I mean,
he didn't put any of his own money into this, so.
I mean, I know that he was an investor in Oculus, and when they sold to Facebook, I know that he got a very hefty sum from that. So, I mean, there's definitely... He's not hurting as far as that
Cliffy
goes.
ain't hurting.
No. And I mean, it sounds like he's been smart about making sure that even if this all was a flop, that, you know, he's still not out on his ass,
protected himself. That's the sad part of the story, is that some of the employees that may have up and moved to come work for them, some of them might not get off so lightly, which is the sad part. It sucks. It sucks all around. It's too bad. It would have been nice if he hit another home run.
My biggest disappointment actually about the whole thing is that it sounds like there was people at the studio that found out that they were losing their job because he posted it on Twitter. Ugh. And that's how they found out. And
I didn't hear that, but that's really shitty.
I was reading some stuff online and hearing some people in the industry talk about like,
if that's true at all, that's super dickish.
Yeah. So
that's terrible.
So anyways.
Moving along.
Yeah.
Crappy story.
Yeah.
In other shocking news, Shenmue 3 is not releasing this year. I don't find this
actually think it was?
I don't find this very shocking. So it has been delayed to 2019, and the internet went ablaze because everyone really likes Shenmue. I don't know who these people are.
I'm going to say this right now. So on this day, the 16th of May, I'm going to say that Shenmue 3 is going to come out. And it is... I'm not going to say that it's necessarily going to be a flop, but I don't think it's going to do much of anything.
Oh no, it's a cult classic.
I think that it's going to be like The Last Guardian. That game came out, some people played it, we talked about it for about 2 weeks, and you've never heard anything about it since.
No, I did fine. Like, that wasn't a flop, but
I wouldn't. No,
it ain't going to set the world ablaze.
I wouldn't. When you think about how long that game was in development for, I guarantee you it was a flop. That game,
well, that's true.
Seeing as how long that 10 years in development, they definitely did not make their money back on it.
I forgot about that.
I don't necessarily know that Shenmue will be that, but like I said, I have a sneaky suspicion that Shenmue 3 is going to come out. We're going to get reviews, and I don't know. I have a feeling.
I own the first two games on Dreamcast and in the other room.
The first
so
one on
don't
Dreamcast,
hate on me.
the second one on Xbox.
What's that?
First one on Dreamcast, the second one on Xbox.
Did the second one not come out on Dreamcast too?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well maybe I have it on Xbox. Whatever. I've owned them both.
Yep.
They were fine. I just never fell in love with them, like the vocal minority out there that clamors like it's like this amazing second coming of Christ or something. Like, I feel like Shenmue is one of those super, super overhyped like cult classics. It's just fine. It was a good game.
I think you also do have to appreciate though what it did for the industry and for games.
Yeah, there would be no Yakuza if there was no Shenmue.
There might not even be a Grand Theft Auto 3 if there wasn't a Shenmue. Like, that was a game that came out.
That just sounds like crazy talk.
You got to remember, though, that was the game that came out and changed everything. It was...
I will agree to disagree.
Yeah. It was... All I'm saying is that there was a lot of things about that game that the game itself, I agree with you, is not... I'm not the biggest fan.
It did have quite
fine,
the impact when it came out. This is true.
But I feel like it's one of those games that influenced a lot of games that came after. That's all.
1999.
Yeah.
December 29th, 1999.
Yep.
I doubt that'll be at E3.
Yeah, I don't know.
Moving along to Nintendo news. NES Classic is coming back June 29th. Nintendo, I think, tweeted this information. Yeah, it was a tweet because I didn't see a press release. Or maybe I did see a press release. I don't think so. Return to stores June 29th. So, yeah. Get your credit cards and account information up to date because they'll probably disappear super fast as well.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I had my NES Classic. I got rid of it because I find the Super Nintendo a better I love the NES and it'll have a special place in my heart. But going back to some of those games is a little rough. The Super Nintendo is a little easier to play.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
That
no
16-bit pixelated graphics just, I think, stands up, holds up better.
Yeah.
I might get another one again if they're not super hard. But I think I turned it on like twice and then never played it again. Whereas I played the Super NES every once in a while.
Yeah.
But that's good news for people because that one was actually hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah, that one
Super Nintendo was a lot easier to get.
As a quick aside back to our previous story, October 2001 is when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, which is 2 years. 2 years after Shenmue. Just saying, if you're going to try and tell me that didn't have some influences, I'm just going to leave that there. That's all.
You know what? You could be right.
So, anyways, moving on.
Monster Hunter is coming out for Switch, but not the Monster Hunter one you want.
I was just going to say, like, this is the weird... Well, not weird. This is essentially like the 3DS port, isn't it? Monster Hunter XX becomes Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which is, so that launched on the 3DS in 2016.
So it's apparently a good game. Obviously, it's not World with all the stuff that came to World. Apparently, it has a lot more monsters than World. Monster Hunter fans do like this version of Monster Hunter. It doesn't have any of the quality of life stuff that made World such a more of a mainstream success. It's good news. It's fine. I will not play it. Apparently, I would rather play a downgraded version of World than go back to an old version of Monster Hunter, in my opinion.
Apparently, you'll be able to transfer your progress over to the Switch version from the 3DS version when it comes out in August.
Yeah, some people are happy about that.
Also, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate will not be getting a Western 3DS release, but apparently it is also releasing on 3DS in Japan. Speaking
of more leaks, apparently a round of leaks on the internet have put Retro Studios as making a Star Fox racing game spin-off.
I hope to God this is not true. I hope to God this is not true.
Star Fox Grand Prix. Why?
I do not want... Okay.
You don't know what you want.
No, hear me out. So, we have Mario Kart, which is a lighthearted, funny, fun, slightly battle-esque karting game that's light on racing, big on fun, whatever. And you're going to tell me that you're going to take the Star Fox franchise and instead of making a new proper Star Fox game...
No, the last Star Fox game was a disaster.
It was also a remake of the first Star Fox game with a terrible control scheme. Anybody with half a brain at Nintendo, the first time we saw it being played at PAX, I knew that game was crap. And so did everybody else. So that, I don't even like to remember that happened. But you're meaning to tell me that instead of building a new proper Star Fox game with like more open worlds and like oh man, I can think of so many cool things that they could do with Star Fox, you're going to build me a racing game in R-Wings? Like this is not what I want. This is not what I want at all from this studio.
Yeah, did everyone know that they wanted a Donkey Kong Country Returns? That's from Retro and Tropical Freeze, and that's fantastic.
I did know I wanted that. That's exactly what I wanted when they were like, "Hey, we're gonna make a new Donkey Kong Country game." I will
hold.
That's what I wanted
until we see what it is, because it could be pretty freaking rad. Because Retro makes awesome freaking games. Is all I have to say.
Yeah.
Retro hasn't delivered a dud.
They do make great games. I'm not going to argue that. I'm just saying this is not what I want out of a Star Wars or a Star like
no.
The Star
like
Fox
honestly,
game.
Everyone wants just a good Star Fox game. That Platinum thing was an abomination. Star Fox Zero, and yeah, it was just sad.
Like, oh yeah.
Hey man, we'll see what happens. It looks kind of cool. It could be cool. Pokemon rumors have been going crazy on the internet the last couple days. This story from Polygon, but could also I saw it everywhere.
All right.
Basically, fans on the internet have found, like, on 4chan and different forums, have found a weird logo, which apparently translates to "Let's Go Pikachu." And then I guess they had figured out there's another version called "Let's Go Eevee." There's a trademark filing from the same company that filed trademarks for Pokemon Sun and Moon. Have filed trademarks for these exact titles.
Interesting.
There's been rumors that it's a Yellow remake of Yellow for Switch, with kind of like, I think it's supposed to have like higher res like graphical style as the Sun and Moon games on the Switch. It's apparently has Pokemon Go integration, which is kind of crazy.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
so what you're saying is I would need to reinstall Pokemon Go.
I guess so too, which is I guess we'll see what happens. It's like super rumor mill time, but the registering of these trademarks definitely lends some credibility to the names. But I like Pikachu. I like Eevee.
Interesting.
And we have something called a E3 coming up, so I'm pretty sure we're going to hear some more. If this comes out this year, the trademark that was filed for Sun and Moon was filed the same year that Sun and Moon came out. So, and Smash Brothers and Pokemon, you got another killer year for Switch, and they've already been setting the world on fire.
I don't really want a yellow, like, I feel
it won't be the same game. It'll be different enough. I'm fine with whatever they release on the Switch. I heard rumors that the combat is different. I am worried that that they F up the combat, because I don't want anything to do with Pokemon Go, but hey.
What is the... I gotta ask the question. What is the deal with Nintendo? And they have a property and they're terrified of putting it somewhere where they know it's going to do good. Like the Pokemon games, for example, they refuse to port over to or bring over a better version of them to their consoles. They could have made a great Wii U game and had it on there, higher resolution, and been essentially just a Pokemon game. Like, I understand that people play those on the go, but there's no reason. There's nothing in the game that is, like, there's not GPS. There's not anything in the game that means you have to take it on the go. And especially now with the Switch, being able to just pause it and walk away and obviously take it with you, why on earth wouldn't you create from the ground up a brand new Pokemon game for the Switch that is your new Pokemon game? Why would you try and like port an older game? Some of the decisions that Nintendo makes, what the fuck? Why? Like, why? And then some of the decisions I look and I go, why? And then they come out and I go, I get it. Right on. Good for you. This is one of those decisions where I have been asking this question for years. Why haven't you just released a proper game? Like some of these games that they released for the 3DS, all I've wanted was for them to be on a proper console. And yet they keep dropping them on their handhelds. Like, freaking let the 3DS die at this point and focus on the fucking Switch. Ugh! Anyways, end of rant.
Yeah.
I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that this is one of those things where I ranted for nothing and it's a new Pokemon game and yada yada, but it's very reminiscent of what I kind of half expect from Nintendo half the time, and that's for every awesome decision they seem to make another one that I just go like, what the fuck are you thinking? So yeah.
Jesus. I'm just watching a video here on the internet related to our next story.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
I was done with Pokemon.
Oh, okay. Says the guy that's going to play way more.
The 3DS is going to die soon enough, and we're going to get a new Pokemon game.
That's what I keep thinking. Happy. I guarantee you there's going to be more games that they're going to announce at E3 about the 3DS. There's going to be more shit.
It is a moneymaker.
It.
There is like, what? I want to say there's like 70 or 80 million 3DSs, and I'm just guessing off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know if they've ever announced full numbers or not, but
Nintendo doesn't, but they
there's
can
lots.
This out.
Yes. There's lots.
At E3, Nintendo's changing up the way they're doing things for letting fans get their hands on Smash Brothers.
Okay.
Basically, for all registered show goers, there's going to be apparently an email with details from organizers on June 5th on how to reserve playtime with Smash Brothers. I don't know, some people, I saw a bunch of cynicism and snide remarks and stupid hot takes on the internet where everyone's like, oh, good luck playing Smash Brothers now. And it's just like, I honestly think this is a good thing. What I wonder is if this is going to be an E3, the convention center thing for all the games, and Nintendo's just kind of come out ahead of the curve of everyone else saying that you can reserve time for it. I wonder if this will be a system for similar game for other devs at the show. Who knows? It could just be a Nintendo thing.
Right.
I know Sony does their app at E3 because they did it last year.
Right. Yeah.
I think this is great.
Because they did the app at PAX as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
They did the app at PAX and it works great. It's like a fast pass. Over the couple days of the show, you play your cards right, you can see everything. We had no problem with the app. Now, people with no roaming or no data or crappy phones might not like this very much because they kind of get screwed. But for most people, I think it works okay. This is good because every E3, it's the mad dash to the Nintendo booth and 4 or 5 hour lineups. which is insane. I've never done it. I've witnessed it. I've watched it. I've walked past it. And it's just like, man, you guys are crazy. I want to see stuff. I don't want to just sit in a line all day long. So this is going to hopefully alleviate that. They're going to say it's going to short wait times and that more people should be able to get their hands on it. And I assume that's how it's going to work. And I think it's great. The Sony version works really good through my experience. We've used it a couple times. I used it last year at E3, even myself.
Nice.
Because not everything they had behind the scenes was in the media area. It was just on the show floor.
Right.
So I was able to see a couple things, using the app.
They do that at PAX as well. Like there's some of the stuff that we wanted to look at last year. You got to kind of, hey, we're here to take a look at Super Mario Odyssey, but they weren't showing that in their closed door sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, did they have that? Was that what they had at their booth too? At the queue, you could line up or reserve a spot, right?
Yeah, you could reserve a spot to see Super Mario Odyssey and Metroid, the new Metroid game.
I think it was probably maybe something similar to how this will work. I don't know. Another thing is if Nintendo reps see you at E3 with your Switch out while you're waiting in line or you're just playing your Switch, apparently they're giving out like an E3 limited only pin.
Ooh.
I know.
Which then I'm sure everybody will sell
cool.
on eBay for a gajillion dollars.
I was just kind of annoyed that I saw all the snide remarks about this. Like, it was a bad thing. I'm like, no, this is good. Like, what the hell? PlayStation news. Stardew Valley finally launches on Vita next week.
Wow. I did not realize that was not on Vita yet.
Neither did I. I honestly thought it was on the Vita already.
Yeah. Wow.
So May 22nd.
That's crazy.
So yeah, cool. I have that game on Switch.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you don't own a Switch, then great to get it on the Vita.
Speaking of Vita, Sony ends production of physical Vita games.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this.
No, I'm surprised it took this long for this to happen. The Vita is a great system, but they just didn't realize in my opinion, like they didn't realize the Switch just is what the Vita should have been.
I think that these like. Personally, also, the biggest issue with the Vita was the fact that they tried to put console games on a mobile instead of building mobile games for a mobile device. And it's the same problem that the PSP had, in my opinion, where there's these games that, like, while some of them are great games, they're not necessarily games that you want to take on the go. They're not games that you want like that. And I think that that's honestly been the issue with Sony and their handhelds, the PSP and the Vita, the whole time. Is they're like, yeah, you're going to get console quality games on the go. And it's like, on one hand, yes, as we're seeing with the Switch, that can work. But at the time, the technology and stuff in the Vita doesn't allow it to do that. Yeah, you're getting great games, but they're definitely not console quality. And
no,
now
it was
you're
quite a bit weaker system compared to the PS3,
right? At
the time when it came out, let alone the freaking PS4. Forget about it.
Exactly. So yeah, and I just think they missed
video
that.
Out, no shoulder trigger buttons, kind of crampy, nubby joysticks. Like, it was a great system, but it wasn't perfect.
No,
it's just a couple things. They just missed the mark by just a tiny bit. And also, let's be honest, it came out 6 years ago, so the Switch had a lot of extra power available to it and a lot of over time improvements, right? I don't know. There's a lot of people. I've heard a lot of rumors and people swirling about there being another Vita that Sony could do, like a PS4 Vita, and I'm like, that would be rad, but do we really need it? I don't know. Remote play is great on the Vita, but then again, game without the triggers, some games have terrible remote play control or implementation.
Yeah, well, not
I
having
love my Vita.
not
I
having
still have it.
all of the buttons can do that, right?
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with my Vita. It was a great system. So yeah, rest in peace, Vita.
Yeah.
Another weird story that came out this week was the death of Sony's press conference. And I think people were overreacting because Sony came out saying, "Oh yeah, we're bringing these 4 games to E3," and they didn't really say anything else. And everyone's like, "Oh, they're changing their press conference. It's not going to be a big thing, and this and that, and yada yada." And it's like, I don't know if it was just like to temper expectations or just like, yeah, these are guaranteed going to be there. I feel like a lot of these games, most of these games they announce have a high probability of being playable, which is pretty exciting. If they are only focusing on these games, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I got an invite to their press conference. They're still having a press conference.
Oh, yeah.
Their press conferences have changed over the last few years. You know what I mean? Like, like last year was super streamlined, like bang, 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 trailer, which is fine because the worst part of every press conference is the annoying suits and awkward devs and weird forced celebrity freaking appearances. So like I could do without all that stuff. I just want the machine gun freaking,
This
unloading.
This is a trailer.
Yeah.
Watch this gameplay video. This is a trailer.
Let's be honest, people.
This is a
Sony's
slide
not
of our numbers, and this is another trailer, and have a good night.
Yeah, we're doing awesome. We're awesome. TV. Like, like Sony's not going to just come to E3 with 4 freaking games. Like,
no, and I mean, they've
people.
said there's going to be third-party stuff there. There's going to be, I mean...
Of course. Like, man, I just thought it was funny. It seemed like the internet, like, blew up. Just like, oh my God, they're...
I think
like,
you hit the nail on the head there. The internet.
Yeah. Xbox. Moving along to Xbox news. There's a leaked image showing an Xbox accessibility pad with 2 giant buttons.
This is interesting.
There's also a lot of like icons and buttons I don't know if they're buttons, but they're like shortcuts at the top of this controller. I don't understand how it works, but it must have some kind of, it's not just 2 buttons. There must be like some kind of pressure sensitive stuff going on here. There must be like customizable interface stuff here as well. Because I don't know how you could just play any game with 2 buttons. Clearly, this is like a platform that integrates with, I'm going to assume, like special adapters and attachments that allow people with accessibility issues to play games, that's freaking great. Yeah. That's awesome.
I think if they can help out people.
Yeah, if you can make a platform that is like moddable or like customizable, because it's not just 2 big freaking buttons, right? Like there's some stuff going on here that we're not aware of. This obviously was a leak. What lends some credibility to this leak that people have pointed out is the little light pattern icon or like LEDs that appear on the front are also on the new that image of the leaked Elite controller as well.
Oh, right.
So I don't know if this will be a mainline E3 announcement or just like
a press conference that they release around the same time.
Yeah. It's cool, man. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's awesome.
I think that's great. So, like I mentioned earlier with our making fun of the news and no like escape, if we take it for granted, like, on the weekend I'm playing soccer, I'm running around. I have full mobility. I have use of all of my limbs and all my senses. When I think about losing like my senses or anything, like number one, like if I lost my sight, like gaming is such a huge thing to me. If I was blind, I don't know if I'd want to, honestly, it sounds super depressing. I don't know if I'd want to be alive anymore.
Yeah,
because I love gaming so much, and I would lose something that is so huge to me. I'm sure, obviously, I'd have to cope with it and like being a little melodramatic, but like knowing what I know about gaming, if I couldn't play them, I would jump. If I lost the ability to play them the way I can now, I would jump through every freaking flaming hoop on the planet to be able to play them again.
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, I love that. I love the idea of this existing, and like, especially when if you have a disability or something, like, as much as gaming is an escape for us, people who like aren't, we don't have any disabilities, and how much we need it to relieve stress or whatnot, deal with stress, like issues in life, or just freaking escape. I'm done with the bullshit. I need to go kill some shit. I need to go explore an amazing world. I need to play some cartoony game and laugh, or whatever it is, right? Like, it's such a huge thing, and like, more people that can get into it, the better. And like I said, if maybe I was in an accident, I couldn't use my hands anymore, I'm gonna find a way to play freaking video games.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome if they can help essentially anybody more be able to very much easier play video games. Then all the power to them, and that's awesome.
So that's pretty cool. I wonder when we will learn more. Moving along. I guess all we have left is our free-for-all section, Dane, and you've got you got a new little toy you want to talk about.
I made a Switch on the weekend. I made a couple of switches, actually. I switched to a new cell phone provider and saved myself a whole bunch of cash, which is pretty sweet, as well as got so much more data and essentially a whole bunch more for my money, which is always awesome.
That is always good.
And as an A-side to that, I also ended up with a new phone out of the deal, because, you can do that when you sign up for new cell phone plans. And it's funny, I was in the store, I was like looking at the guy's like, hey, what do you want to upgrade your phone? And I was like, well, I've been thinking about it. He's like, well, and I was like, do you have any of the essential phones left? And he's like, yeah, we do actually. And we were talking about it a bit. And long story short, I hummed and hawed, and in the end, I went for it. So I went with the new, well, it's not so new anymore, but the new Essential phone, which has got very similar specs to pretty much any of the phones that came out last year. So Snapdragon 835, 4 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs internal memory. But if you look it up, it has an incredible screen to bezel ratio. It was actually the first phone to come out with a front notch. It's very small. I personally don't mind it. I think it's great. I love the fact that its edge-to-edge screen is in fact edge-to-edge. One of the things that drives me crazy about like the Pixel XL and the iPhone X or 10, whatever, is the fact that they're edge-to-edge. There's this weird little, almost like a black bumper all the way around the phone where it's not necessarily screen, but it's not necessarily bezel. It's kind of weird. Anyways, this one, the design of it is phenomenal. It's got a titanium frame, it's got a ceramic back, and it's got Gorilla Glass front. It's super thin. Build quality is unbelievable. It feels like nothing I think I've ever felt. Like feeling it and feeling my Pixel XL is like night and day. The difference between the two of them.
It's a nice phone.
It feels incredible. I've only had it since last Saturday, So I haven't done a ton of testing with it so far, but I know one of the big complaints initially was on the camera.
And that was more software, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say they've made incredible strides in the software side, and I've definitely taken a few photos, and I've been more than happy with the results. It seems great. It runs very much a bare bones Android, like bare bones. So as
more
far
bare bones than the one that's on the Pixel?
Oh yeah. The Pixel's got like Google's own sort of skin on it and a few of their programs and things like that. This is stock Android to the point where the only app that they've added is their camera app. That's it. That is the only app that they add on this phone. Everything else is pure Android. So if you want something else that you're used to having, you got to go get it from somewhere else, obviously the App Store. And the reason they did that is so that they can do security updates very quickly. That was a big thing that they wanted. As well as when Android P or any of those other versions come out, that it is not a big deal to upgrade the users to the newest version. So it's running Android.
Can you get P on it right now if you wanted?
Yep. They're in the test group. They were announced as one of the first test partners with I saw
that and I was like, no, I'm going to wait a little longer.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to wait because it sounds like there's some bugs and stuff just in P. But overall, the phone is incredible. I've really been liking it.
You got to find one of those 3D is it 360 add-ons?
Yeah.
I think they were pretty inexpensive.
They're not cheap. They're hard to find right now. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, they're a couple $100. But yeah, it does have a sort of accessory notches on the back, which has allowed them they released a 360 camera for it that plugs into the back, and which is pretty cool. Dual camera, so it's got the whole black and white camera with the pixel camera, or color camera. Like I said, if you ever get a chance and you're in a place that sells them, like, pick one up. Their build quality is incredible. It is hard to, there's been several people that have, since I've had this phone, that have picked it up and looked at it and were just like, holy crap, this feels amazing. And I completely agree. It's a cool device. Definitely, I don't think it is a device for everyone, though. I will say that. Just from literally the essential nature of it. And that is just how stock Android it is. It's actually funny. They had the May security update out the same day that Google did. That is how on top of it as far as that goes, which is cool. But if you're used to some of the more frivolous things on your phone, then you may be sort of disappointed that you don't have them. But for me, I'm a giant nerd, so I'm happy to have stock Android.
Yeah,
and
it's a nice phone.
It really is. I'm really impressed with it so far. And the screen's great. The battery life is phenomenal. I'm really liking that.
So I don't remember. Did you say was it free or did it cost you money?
This one was free. It came with
that makes it even better.
Yep, exactly.
Because any other phone was going to cost you $300 or $400 regardless.
Well,
starting
for me, I was looking between that, and it was really only between that and the Pixel XL, the Pixel 2.
Yeah.
So for me, the Pixel 2 would have cost me
$700, right?
Yeah, well, it would have, because of the way everything was working, it would have probably cost me $250 out of pocket. So, free versus not. So
it's true. It
makes me super excited to see what these guys are going to do for their second phone. they have sort of said we're working on a PH2. This is the Essential Phone PH1. So I'll be really curious, because this is, if they can keep this build feel and this build quality.
Oh, it's an amazing feeling phone.
Yeah.
I've played with it out of a display.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm really, I love my Pixel so much, and I'm excited for what they do with the Pixel 3.
Yeah.
That'll most likely be my next phone. I don't know if I could ever go. I don't think I could ever go back to a Samsung phone.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything wrong with the Samsung phones, but just having that freaking, having a freaking clean Android OS, and it's such a snappy phone that just works all the time, and it doesn't have a bunch of bullshit in it that I didn't want.
The most incredible thing is the screen size on my Essential and my Pixel XL is almost identical.
Yet the phone's
yet the
much
phone
smaller.
is so much smaller. It's kind of crazy. Like, my Pixel XL feels gigantic when I've got them side by side, and yet the screens are almost the identical size, 5.7. The Essential phone has a bit of a strange ratio. It's like I can't remember the exact number on it, but it's a bit of a funny ratio, but in my opinion it works really well. So yeah. That's
so breaking news. As we're recording the freaking podcast, the Xbox adaptive controller is announced.
Wow.
There's a YouTube video, and yeah, it, like I expected, there's like 1 million ports on the top of it,
right?
So that you can put customized buttons and adapters and stuff to basically come up with a configuration that works depending on what your challenges may be.
That's really cool. Then I would imagine that you could use like foot pedals, and you could use
anything.
Like,
it uses a system of 3.5 millimeter jacks on the top and a USB port. Like, literally, there's like 20 little jacks on the top of that remote underneath those little icons in the image.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, yeah, they're showing paddles or buttons and different configurations, mounts. It'll mount to different accessibility mounts. There's mapping the buttons.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at some of the photos and stuff right now.
Yeah, check out the video. You know what I'll do is, if you look at the show notes for this story, I will
link the video.
This will take you straight to the video. So if you click on the story, so it's no longer a leak. It is confirmed.
Very cool.
But if you click on that story, it'll take you straight to the YouTube story or YouTube video.
Wow.
It doesn't say anything about date here, but it does show how it works.
That's cool.
That's cool. It just says coming later this year. And yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome. So there you go. Man, these leaky leaks are freaking
leaking out as we're here.
Turning out to be real, man. Oh, man, Walmart. What did you do? They didn't leak this, but all the other stuff. We got a few weeks. We got a lot of news. A lot of stuff. I feel like a lot of stuff's going to come out even before E3. But I think everything that we're going to see, well, with the exception of Rage 2, is known quantities.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, by the time this podcast comes out, the Black Ops 4 reveal will happen. That's going to be really neat to see what they show there. So we'll obviously talk about that next week. And hopefully, yeah, the Battlefield thing, I think, happens before we record next week, which is great too. So definitely we'll have those two biggies to talk about.
Awesome.
With that, Dane, I think we've got a show.
I think you're right.
And episode 156. If you want to yell at me over the internet and tell me that I'm stupid or wrong about something, or that, hey man, that good job, or I agree with you, which I don't know, probably no one ever does. I'm just always wrong. You can hit me up on Twitter at RickF, no K, RICF.
You can always come hang out with me on Twitter at Dane Cody, at DAYNECODY.
You can subscribe to us on youtube.com/Geekoholics, which we don't have a lot there, but I'm thinking for E3, I'm going to maybe do it like total guerrilla vlog style. All my stuff, and then I'll have a lot of videos. I think I need to get off my high horse and not worry about the quality, picture quality of videos, and realize that I am not a professional videography crew, and that I think people would be happy just seeing my stupid ugly mug with hot impressions from the show floor. I think I'm going to do that this year.
Sweet.
So you will find those there. If I'm not an asshole and I do it. Of course, you can follow our Facebook page, or like our Facebook page.com/Geekoholics. Follow us on Twitter.com @Geekoholics. And is that it? Oh yeah, we got Insta, we got the gram, Geekoholics on the Instagrams. Though I really need to be more active on all that stuff. But, full-time job, baby, playing games, it's not a lot of time in the day.
Yeah, I hear
hire a social media manager and pay them nothing.
Right.
Maybe that's what we'll do.
Aren't that what interns are for?
You want to intern at our giant corporation that makes no money? But,
Yeah.
hey, we get to go to conventions and play video games early, so that's pretty cool.
So there you go. Perfect.
And again, thank you to everyone who has reviewed the podcast. Again, I totally appreciate it. It totally helps with new listeners. And like I said, whether you believe it or not, our downloads have gone up, and there's definitely a tangible benefit to leaving those silly reviews on iTunes. So
we appreciate it so much.
Yeah. And if you haven't, feel free to do it. Otherwise, that's about it. I think we're done for this week. Until next week, we're out.
Later.
Peace.